Okay, so on one of the Russian army maps we saw a fort near Tara waterfalls, and again, as you can see, with a little bit of searching around this approximate position, we are kind of able to kind of fault some very old fort walls. I mean, several levels of defense wall before we kind of came into the entrance of the fort. So these are like these views, right? If you see these documentaries on TV of like those Cambodian temples, you can see the same kind of old human structures overtaken, totally eaten up, almost as you can say, by the jungle. So like this actually, I mean, we have been trekking in the Eastern Ghats, but even in Ombatigudi and the Western Ghats, we have discovered several very old jeep trails actually that used to be maintained very well in the old days and used to kind of connect both sides of the mountains. Okay, so then let's take a look at this NASA data. This is interesting. This is a bit similar to the Google Topo Maps. So this is the same view. If I go to Google Topo Maps again, voila, the same actually landscape here. Instead of kind of using like a shaded view with lines to indicate the altitudes, here we actually use the spectrum. So we go from green, cold, right, left side of your color spectrum, which corresponds to the base altitude, 0 altitude, the plains. Red, the other side of the spectrum. I mean, blue is actually the side, but these are like lower Ghats. So from green all the way to through yellow, orange to red, we actually go higher and higher and higher. And here you can clearly see, right, that these valleys are like deep cuts eroded by water through millions of years. Draining this whole upper plateau actually gets drained through this big stream. Water all gets assembled here, and that's why there are such big cuts in this hill range, which are basically the main streams, the main valleys to this range. So this again, like 100% accurate data. You can see that there is a grid on top of this, so you will have the latitude and the longitude coordinates. So when you know your position, if you are somewhere on this hill, when you know the position, knowing you will know exactly where inside this grid you will be, so you can understand your current position. This is again an interesting piece of data, because this map, as well as some of these other maps, you will be able to overlay using certain tools, so that you can actually combine altitude information, very nicely expressed in color, with some of these other terrain maps. Okay, one more interesting source is the OpenStreetMaps. OpenStreetMaps is again not that useful in the jungle, but again, I mean, this is like an open source initiative separate from Google that allows you, I mean, everyone to contribute. If you know certain small roads in deeper rural areas, you can upload those rules. If you have walked along some trails, you can upload these trails in these in this kind of central database online. So this is like a very rich database. In many cases, you will see much more detail on these maps than on some of the Google maps when we go outside the main cities to rural places. So this again can be very interesting, an interesting source of information to find small access roads that will get you to the base of the mountains, basically. Okay. Alright, so the maps again that we saw here, I mean, all these maps, you could say, wow, these are nice maps, but by themselves the maps are a little bit useless, because I mean, you don't know actually the exact location in all of these maps. If you look at like if you go back to the terrain maps, especially the user Google terrain maps, I mean, this is all very nice, but unless you actually know like, hey, what is the location of this point, and so you cannot really reference yourself on this map. So there's something called Geo-reference, georeferencing of maps. If you go to this thing here, Geo-reference file. So for example, for these Russian and US Army maps, they will also, you will be able to download what we call a corresponding, for every map section, you will have a corresponding georeference file. This file is very useful because it will tell you typically for the 4 corners of that bitmap, and that's like a stupid bitmap actually, which is just a piece. I mean, you can print this out, but you cannot really know exactly where are we on that map. So by knowing exactly what is the latitude and the longitude in I mean in the corners of the map, and what is the scale of the map, you will be able actually to kind of put a scale on that map, and you will be able to kind of put a reference on that map. So let me take one of my favorite tools called Global Mapper. Global Mapper is like a very nice tool. I mean, I have downloaded like a free version here, an evaluation version. So what I can do here is a couple of interesting things. I think we need to take a break. You guys have become very silent. That might point to dehydration or information overload. At the next beep we will stop. So if I go back to those, like take one of these old Russian army maps. No, not this one. Open data file. Okay, my documents, downloads, I guess, old. Map. Look, so the same maps are here. Let me take one of these Russian maps. So this is a geo-reference file. So I can actually open this file in this tool. So this is one of these files that you see in the presentation. So it basically will contain position information for that big map. It will say like maybe the top left corner is this exact position, and then every centimeter horizontally will correspond with this distance. Every centimeter or every number of pixels like vertically will correspond with this distance. So if and it will also have a pointer obviously to the original bitmap. So if I open this map file, then this tool will allow me to position this map exactly on the Earth, I mean where it's supposed to be. So now this tool has actually put this map in the proper location where it belongs. So if I zoom in a little bit, again here, Tirupati, Tirumala, Renigunta. So if I zoom in a little bit at the proper level, right, 1-to-1 level. So now I can actually kind of look at individual points. Here I can kind of go to this peak, say 853 meter peak, and if you look at the bottom corner, right, if I go to this location, you can see the exact altitude, latitude and longitude. So you can see that the latitude is like 13 degrees 42 minutes 15 second 0.7509 north, and the longitude is 79 degrees 22 minutes 36 east. Again, bear with me for 10 minutes. I'm going to explain you in detail about these coordinates, but I'm just telling you here that you can convert bitmaps, including the paper maps you see. I can actually scan this into a computer, and then I can kind of geo-reference it, which means I can identify right what is the position of the corners, and I can put it in tools, and then I can kind of even start drawing trails on top of this, right? I can say kind of go follow this stream here. Sorry, I guess I need to take this tool. Voila, see, I can start kind of tracing the stream on top of this map. And voila, say I want to walk along this one. Do I save this? Okay. This is again a stream. And again, I will have the exact position. Now I can actually export this line, save it as a GPX file again, and download it in GPS, right? The same with the rest house, the same with the British Fort, the same with the Jeep Trail. I can trace it, and all that useful position information can be extracted from this using lines and points and downloaded in a GPS basically. Okay, but I can only do this because now the computer understands where exactly this map is located actually on the planet. Okay, I think we'll stop again, and maybe let's take a 5 to 10 minute break for your... I see the brain of some people has started smoking.